SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Thinking about a new vehicle? Trust the team that's been taking care of customers for 70 years. The Cannon family has helped thousands drive home happy. Come take a test drive today and see why. And remember, when the smoke clears, nobody beats a Cannon deal. Nobody.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C Spire. Power your home or business with C Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C Spire. C Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. And let's see, we're supposed to kick it off right now with Michael Borkey. He's the host.
Not quite.
Not quite. Okay.
He said to blame Brian Haydad.
Okay. I was wondering, didn't see him up there on the screen.
He's going to get connected here in just a second. Okay. And when he does, I'll replace my face with his.
Got it. Just looking at the schedule here, he's supposed to be joining us. That's because he, along with the SportsTalk Mississippi team, is down in Tampa, Florida. That's for the SEC Media Days. I just can't get accustomed to the idea of talking about college football right now. Maybe it was the World Cup that had our attention from a sports perspective. And then last night, I'm flipping through the channels, and you know what's on? Field of Dreams. And it's just something about that movie. I always have to stop and watch it. It's just so well done. And it's interesting to see Kevin Costner, in his prime. Just looks a little different today. You still see him around, but awesome movie and really so well done. Oh, I see you got the screen up where the SportsTalk Mississippi set is, but I don't see Borkey. He's coming on.
I'm here,
okay.
Gerard. I'm here. I'm hiding from you is what I'm doing. It spent all this time getting down here, and I don't want you to see any of it.
I got you. Okay, so, all right. So you guys are all squared away in place, and you're set to talk. Tell us what in the heck is going on, what's on tap today in Tampa for SEC Media Days.
Well, today is an interesting day. One that, frankly, Brian Haydad doesn't particularly like, but that's okay. This was the day I got to have a one-on-one with the commissioner of the SEC. And unfortunately, time is never long enough with him. I could have talked for an hour about all kinds of stuff. But where we started today, and the big thing today, was centered around really two things locally that are of the most interest from the league office. Number one is the game, Week 3, Lane Kiffin making his return to Oxford. I asked him if the league has stepped in and been involved in that, and he gave a good answer about, I'll paraphrase it, but it was essentially, I needed to remind everybody involved that, you see my arm? There I am. Hey, Gerard.
I got you.
But he said I needed to remind people to talk about your own team and your own team only. He didn't seem to be very pleased with some of the off-season comments that were made in the direction, not only in Ole Miss's direction, but the state of Mississippi as a whole. Oh. And then the other thing was Dabo Swinney calling out Pete Golding back in late January about tampering and Luke Ferrelli and all that. And again, I asked Greg Sankey about that, and I was surprised at how pointed he was, basically in defense of Ole Miss, when he said, we all live in a glass house. He said, no, hold on. We all live in a glass house. And I thought that is a very non-political way for essentially a politician to answer that. So you'll hear that full interview coming up later on the show, but it was a very interesting sit down. And he's a guy that is living in your world right now with all the lobbying he's having to do to Congress and things like that. So it's kind of a mess around here, but that's the big interview today is the one with him.
You know, that's a good point, though, Michael. I can't remember a time in the history of college athletics where there's been so much interest from the political world as a result of, I guess you could say, all the chaos that has been inserted into college athletics through the collectives and the NIL and all this other crazy stuff and all this moving around of teams between conferences. And so it's gotten the attention of those in the political domain.
It has, and I mean they're trying to push forward this bill, and I understand it. Now this is a political show. I can insert politics into this. I'm allowed to here.
Absolutely.
I appreciate and respect and understand why we need rules and structure. I want that for college football. What I can't quite figure out, though, is why here in this country we think that it is appropriate for the government to step in and restrict the earning potential or job movement potential of legal adults without them or representatives of them being a part of that decision. I'm uncomfortable with government intervention in income on adults without the adults having a say on what their income can be. So I'm really uncomfortable with that. I don't think that's the government's job. I think collective bargaining or something like that needs to be the path that we go down, because I mean there's people. I talked to a sports lawyer here yesterday, and he had the same question. He said even if they pass a bill, I don't know if it gets challenged in the Supreme Court that the Supreme Court's going to think it's constitutional. So it's a mess. I'm not comfortable with the route that they're taking, though.
Well, man, you could come in and host a show with that. That's awesome. Well, first, I agree with you. And you're more, Michael, into the specifics of just the right, let's say, as you put it, of an adult to negotiate pay with the party that's paying them. And I completely agree that. I'll take it a step further. Just the concept in general of government inserting themselves into this world seems like they could figure it out and self-regulate. Why do we need government oversight here? Can't this association, these organizations these are smart people, can't they figure this out?
You would think so. And I mean, you know this. You operate in this space every single day. I don't think Congress as a whole does Congress things well. Right. I don't think they handle their actual job description well. Why should any of us think that what they are going to end up finalizing and signing is going to be truly effective? And the worst part is, I know your audience probably favors him more than Maria Cantwell, the other author of the bill. It's a Democrat and a Republican, but Ted Cruz was asked specifically, if you pass this bill, who enforces it?
Right.
He didn't have an answer. He has no idea who's going to enforce.
Who's the police here?
Is it going? I mean, is it legal? Is it authorities? Is it the NCAA? They don't have an answer. So if you pass a bill, great. Who enforces it? I don't know.
100%. I totally agree. It just seems like it's another area where government should just butt out. But so do you expect that subject to kind of dominate the media days over the next few days?
I think once we get closer, quite frankly, once we get closer to Pete Golding and Lane Kiffin Day, that conversation will go away. I mean, we've got, Kirby Smart's here today. He's certainly a needle mover. Arch Manning is a needle mover.
Sure.
But everybody around here is asking about Week 3 in Oxford, Pete Golding, Trinidad, and of course, Lane Kiffin. I mean, we're right behind the ESPN set right here, and every single time ESPN cuts into somebody here, it's Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin. So they did a good job scheduling, hanging that out above everybody's head until Thursday to keep the interest here. But that dynamic in that game is just on the front of everybody's mind here, and people can't stop talking about it.
Man, that's incredible. And I think that's exactly what Lane wants, honestly. He wants,
100%.
He wants the attention. He thrives on it.
It works for him.
Yeah, exactly. Any talk of more teams moving around between conferences? Or are we going to end up with a 30-conference SEC? A 30
if Congress
team?
has their way, no. I still think, and Greg Sankey alluded to it, Kirby Smart alluded to it, I still think that a day is coming soon, and I mean very soon, where the SEC, the Big Ten, and a handful of others they decide to bring with them are going to create their own entity one day. That day is coming. They keep dropping little hints on us, and they've done that this week. That day's coming soon.
I think you're probably right. Well, you guys enjoy yourselves. We appreciate you calling in, and sounds like it's going to be an exciting few days. Michael Borkey, everyone, host of SportsTalk Mississippi. Appreciate it, man.
Anytime.
Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
So they say, is the root of all evil today. But if you ask for a rise, it's no surprise that they're giving none away.
We've sent that ribbon.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
Awesome. On SuperTalk Mississippi.
standing in the rain with his head hung low. Couldn't get a ticket. It was a sold-out show. Heard the roar of the crowd. He could picture the scene. Put his ear to the wall. Then like a distant scream, he heard one guitar. Just blew him away. Saw stars in his eyes. And the very next day, bought a beat-up 6-string in a second-hand store.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio.
But he knew for sure.
You may have heard the news that former state senator John Polk has passed away. Lieutenant Governor Hoseman shared this news yesterday afternoon, saying, quote, "The Senate and I have lost a close friend, confidant, and outstanding person in former Senator John Polk of Hattiesburg. Quote, we will always remember him for his unwavering dedication to Mississippi, his strong convictions, and his willingness to say what needed to be said, even when it was difficult. As chairman of the Senate Business and Financial Institutions Committee and vice chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, he was always a steady leader and a voice of reason. We are prayerful for Miss Jan and his entire family during this difficult time." He was placed in hospice care during the special session last week that was announced on the Senate floor. He served in the state Senate, representing his District 44 from 2012 until 2026. So I'll pass on a little small personal connection. Not even sure if I shared this with you, Rhino, but he would regularly send me text messages during the show. And sometimes it would be a message about something he agreed with that we were saying, and sometimes it would be a message about something he disagreed with. And that's perfectly fine. And often he would call me after the show just to talk about it, and always enjoyed those conversations. And so he was a person who was not afraid to put his views, his positions on the table. You may disagree with them, but he didn't shy away from them, and you have to respect that. And sometimes it would be under fire. There would be criticism of his viewpoints, and you sign up for that when you enter political office, of course. So he will be sorely missed, no doubt about it. He told the Senate in April 2025, I'm going home. I'm going to be a regular old citizen. That was when he announced that he would not be running for re-election. He called his time in the Senate the best 14 years of his life. Graduated from Prentice High School, born in Columbia. Went on to study at the University of Southern Mississippi. He entered the family business, Polk Meat Products. Had a successful career, of course, as an executive with that company. Named among the 2011 Alumni of the Year by the College of Business at his alma mater, Southern Miss. Also served in the National Guard. So, Senator John Polk has died, and we will certainly miss him, and we appreciate his service. We got fresh attacks over in the Middle East, and there are some energy industry analysts, Goldman Sachs being one of them, their energy analysts are concerned that if this continues, we're looking at a 100 handle again on the price of oil. I haven't looked today to see how it's trending. I suspect it is up, just given the fresh set of attacks overnight. Yep, it's up $1.74, $84.90. So it's no doubt headed to $90, I think, in the short term. But the concern is that it eclipses the $100 mark. And we're running out of time between now and the midterms, and like it or not, that will be a factor. Now, this is one of those things, Rhino, that as an elected leader, you don't get credit for things that don't happen, if you follow what I'm saying. I'll give you an example, something we've talked about on the show. I know folks get frustrated with the Republican Party. They'll say, well, the Republicans have control of the House and the Senate and the White House, but they don't get anything done. And I get it. They get frustrated about that. I would encourage them to consider the fact that getting that One Big Beautiful Bill Act done last year, preserving the Trump tax cuts of 2017 and making some of those key provisions permanent was a pretty dang good deal. What you don't get, big deal, you don't get credit for where would we be had the Democrats, had Kamala Harris, God forbid, been elected president, in which case all of that would have expired. You don't think much about that because for most people it just continued what they already had. So you didn't go in reverse. You didn't go back to, and that's what would have happened. But if the Democrats had won, the things they would have done that were headed off, that were thwarted as a result of President Trump being elected, packing the Supreme Court, making D.C. and Puerto Rico a state, implementing their version of election control, where the federal government essentially would have had complete management of the elections process in this country. There would be no voter ID. You'd have strict gun control, wide open borders. Just go down the list. Maybe the most concerning of all of those, packing the Supreme Court. So you don't get credit for heading that off. Nobody thinks about that. Well, in the case of this conflict in Iran, and I had concerns back in February that this wasn't going to be over in a short period of time, and here we are, 6 months later, still going on. But I guess what the president won't get credit for, in my view, you won't hear a lot about this, is they were pretty dang close, I believe, from achieving some sort of nuclear capability. And maybe initially the ability to launch a nuclear attack in the region, within their range. But if they keep going and nobody stops it, ultimately they get the ability to hit New York, Miami, L.A., Houston, Chicago. And maybe that sounds far-fetched and really out there. I get it. But I think you have to at least consider the fact that that has been largely, if not fully, eliminated. They still have nuclear material. I don't think you can put bow on this conflict until they no longer have nuclear material. And I still believe that that's not happening without a ground invasion. And that's not popular. I understand. And this war is becoming increasingly unpopular because it's just enduring. And there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. So we'll see what happens. But Pakistan is trying to facilitate negotiation. They say that they're keeping diplomacy alive. They're bringing in our leaders, Iranian leaders. It's hard to tell who in the heck is in charge. Shipping through the strait, once again, largely stalled. And there's a fight over who controls this body of water. There's been talks you've seen of invading Karg, their most precious asset, where all the oil, for the most part, originates. And so that's driving up the price of oil. We've got problems with our strategic petroleum reserves. They've been largely depleted. There are reports that when you move oil in and out, transfer oil in and out of these underground salt domes, that it can compromise the integrity of the domes. That's kind of over my head from a chemistry perspective. I trust those reports because they're coming from credible sources that understand all of those dynamics. But it's just something to keep in mind. Meanwhile, man, I got to give big old props to the keyboardist of my favorite band, Journey. Rock star Jonathan Cain. He, of course, longtime keyboardist. He succeeded the original keyboardist, Greg Rowley. Joined the band, I believe, back in the late 70s or early 80s. He's credited, of course, with the composition of many of the group's big hits. But, man, he ripped Bruce Springsteen. He said, quote, "He is an annoying, bitter old man," because Springsteen's out there politicizing his concerts. He's lecturing concert goers about President Trump. "I used to be a Democrat back in the old days, but I couldn't go there anymore, said Cain in an appearance on the Complete Disaster Network podcast. He said, "I'm a diehard conservative, and guys like Bruce Springsteen should shut up. Really, honestly, shut up, Bruce, That's what he said. Oh, my gosh, that's awesome. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio. Treasurer David McRae at 11:05.
From the Seabrook Dock.
Attention, adoring fans! It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Diablo Motors had a hell of a sale downtown yesterday. Word got around, no money down, take years and years to pay. When I got there, the lot was bare, but the salesman said, hold on. For a little cash, I got a two-tone ash out behind my barn. If the devil danced in empty pockets.
Well, the lettuce gate continues. Man. Taco Bell says their foot traffic is plunging as this big fast food chain deals with the outbreak of, can you pronounce it for me, please? Cyclosporiasis?
That's correct.
Oh, wow. I'm learning. Which can involve explosive diarrhea. Why do they use the term, the adjective explosive?
Because that's the most polite way you can say somebody messed their pants.
I got it.
Because that's the level they're trying to describe without actually describing it.
Okay. Taco Bell says food traffic at their chain plunged 18.9% Friday versus the average Friday from the first half of the year. That's because of the headlines about the company pulling lettuce from its U.S. locations. You also got customers that are rejecting other lettuce selling chains with a 14.3% drop at Chopt, C-H-O-P-T. I don't think we have any of those in Mississippi, do we? C-H-O-P-T?
None that I'm aware of.
Chipotle, I know we have some of those. Panera, we do those. Cava, all caps, C-A-V-A. Not familiar with that particular chain either. So the latest, however, Taylor Farms supplied the lettuce to Taco Bell. They said today, or yesterday late, that the FDA had, quote, made a mistake with a, quote, false positive over the weekend on a sample of its lettuce originating in central Mexico. The FDA came back and said, well, a false positive does not change the basis for FDA's ongoing outbreak investigation or the overwhelming epidemiological data linking Taylor Farms lettuce to the outbreak. That's like clear as mud. This sounds like some not my problem people. What in the world is going on here? 6,100 cases of cyclosporiasis reported in Michigan alone. They must eat a lot of Taco Bell lettuce up there in Michigan, I guess. You wouldn't expect that out of the Midwest, the upper Midwest.
And that's why I think it's a bit rich to just point the finger exclusively at Taco Bell, especially considering Taylor Farms doesn't just supply lettuce to T-Bell.
Yeah, that's true.
They've got a ton of Taylor Farms bag salads they sell at grocery stores across the country.
That's totally true. It's a good point.
So, I mean, if I were Taco Bell, I would feel almost as hard-pressed as Taylor Farms. Taylor Farms took the brunt of the blame because the FDA said, yeah, it's y'all. Wait, it's not. Either way, it's your fault. Basically what it come across as. And T-Bell's just been an unfortunate, almost meme addition to the headline.
That seems like that's
because it feels like a joke that got out of hand. It's like somebody looked at the list of Taylor Farms lettuce distribution and they're like, oh, diarrhea and Taco Bell. That'll be a funny headline. And it just exploded from there. That's my theory, and I'm sticking with it.
Well, you could have that even without bad lettuce, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, they couldn't even whisper lettuce at what you ordered at the T-Bell, but you spend $5, you're going to have a hard time in the bathroom the next time.
That's true. I got to get back to my favorite band, Journey's keyboardist, Jonathan Cain. He said that concerts are not a stage for political grandstanding on either side of the aisle, and even claimed that Springsteen's 1984 hit, Born in the USA, is a diss toward America. Absolutely true. Quote from Cain, now people say, well, you're a Christian and you're conservative. And I'm like, so what? I don't preach it on stage. I don't spend 10 minutes talking about it. And Bruce, I mean, what the heck? I used to like him. And now he's just annoying. He's annoying. He's an annoying, bitter old man. I mean, stop it, really. You were born in the USA, weren't you, dude? So act like it. But even that song, if you look at the lyrics, I mean, it's kind of a diss toward our country. So I will point out, I've been to, you guys know this, numerous Journey concerts, the latest in Tupelo last month, end of last month. Fantastic show. And there's a point in the show, Rhino, where Cain always pauses, and he's playing something on the piano. I mean, he's an excellent keyboardist. And he pays tribute to our armed forces. He always does that. And, you know, concerts these days, of course, you got to have the big screens everywhere. And there's a huge one behind the band, behind the stage. And while he's talking, there are images of famous military events in our history. The most prominent one, perhaps, the Marines raising the flag on Iwo Jima in World War II. You see that on the screen. You see images of soldiers in the Middle East. You can tell they're in the desert and they're dressed in their desert camouflage and so forth. It's current day. So, he kind of takes you back through that, and he's just talking about how we pray for their safety and we're grateful for their service. And then typically they launch into one of the band's most famous tunes that he wrote, Faithfully. So that's not a big deal. That's not preaching on stage like Springsteen is, where he spends 10 minutes just blasting our president. He thinks that, I guess, is pandering to his audience. But that's what Cain chooses to do. And he doesn't talk about his faith and his religious convictions. Just, shouldn't we all be grateful? You may disagree with the decisions made by civilians with respect to our military, but they all, I believe, are entitled to our respect and to our gratitude, and that's all he does. And look, the audience goes crazy with applause, with praise, saying, wow, this is something good to do with a big room full of Americans. That's totally appropriate, in my opinion. And he does a great job of that. Now, many may not know his wife, Paula Cain, is the White House spiritual advisor. You often see her behind the president at various events. And I'm looking at a photo right now in the New York Post where Cain is sitting behind the president at the National Day of Prayer service in the Rose Garden in 2019. And this photo shows the president turning around and shaking hands with Cain, who is seated right behind him. And you can see the president sitting next to his wife, Melania, and you can also see Vice President Mike Pence in the foreground. So, I don't know. That Springsteen has gone wackadoodle, I would say. He's kind of like, what's the movie guy's name escapes me? Michael something or another that's just got crazy, always on the president. Shoot, I can't think of his name.
Michael?
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about it. I can see the guy always has a hat on, big glasses, kind of a round face. You'll think of it in a second. Somebody on our text line will probably send it in. The exposure of 250,000.
Talking about Michael Moore?
That's it, I think. Yeah. I thought I had it right.
That guy hadn't been relevant in a decade and a half.
He tried to be, certainly during the first Trump administration. He was just all over the place. And
it's because he made a killing doing the same thing under W.
That's true. All about attention.
That's all anything is in liberalism, because liberalism is a mental disorder for narcissists and those that didn't get hugged by mommy or told I love you by daddy enough.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, folks on the C Spire text line, they said it as well. Appreciate that. 3 of them did. Michael Moore, his last name escaped me there for a second, but I could see the guy, and he was always bloviating a bunch of nonsense. Dustin from Walnut says, long live Journey, bring back Steve Perry too, haha. Man, Steve, his voice just doesn't have it anymore if you ever see him in any interviews or singing, but man, in his day, you're right. Absolutely incredible. Jerry in Pontotoc says, go to divorce court, you'll have explosive diarrhea. Oh my gosh. That's really incredible. Yeah, Michael Moore, Jason in Brookhaven. Sounds like Springsteen ate too much Taco Bell lettuce on the C Spire text line. You guys have no doubt heard about some 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote and how China interfered in our elections. Not sure to what extent. I have some thoughts about what should be our even larger concerns about this voter data that made its way into China's hands. Coming right back.
Come on. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Okay, so it looks like the Spain soccer team is returning home to some big-time celebrations. World champions. So before we went to break was talking about this exposure of voter information that folks are concerned about because they're hearing that China has gotten this information. Look, the reality is that it's pretty easy to get access to voter rolls in this country. Virtually all states have some process that allows just anybody to request information stored in these voter roll systems. You got to have some sort of stated purpose, but honestly, it's fairly lenient. You got to be a resident in the state, be a registered voter in the state, or some states require you to sign a use agreement. But 20 states plus D.C. provide voter data with a simple public request, purchase or online download. And I actually found a map, Rhino, that shows if you hover over any state, it tells you how you can get this information and who can. So I'm looking at Mississippi, and here's what it says. Who can obtain? Anyone. How to obtain? Submit the Secretary of State Public Records request form, preferably by email, describing the statewide voter file fields and format. So they'll even give it to you, whatever your preferred format is. Talking about the digital format of this electronic information. Voter data available from the Mississippi Secretary of State, full name, residence/mailing address, registration date/status, last vote date, districts, and participation/party codes. There is a restriction on commercial use of that information. So that's Mississippi. Now,
But then it gets into what you define as commercial.
Oh, that's exactly right. And that's all it says. I haven't researched the statutes and the code on that. Maybe there's some details.
I'm fairly certain that's a workaround for names to wind up on mailing lists for nonprofits.
Right.
For solicitation, even though it's not technically allowed.
Well, I was going to say, if that's the goal, that ain't working. That's all you got to do is observe the blast you get on your phone and through your email and through your snail mail, and you pretty much can say, yeah, well, those are commercial organizations. Those aren't individuals that are blowing me up with all that stuff. In Louisiana, just as an example, public inspection, a written group request may obtain copies under statutory conditions. Start with the Secretary of State's Purchase Voter List FAQ, submit the required request, or inspect through the Registrar of Voters.
Either this had so much demand that the government, in all of its slow to get anything accomplished mentality, set up a whole frequently asked questions section.
Yeah.
Or government's too dang big and we got too much busy work that somebody had enough free time to gather together the frequently asked questions on the handful of people that buy the data.
Could be either, right? I mean, either of those are plausible theories. So I'll just say again that my bigger concern by far, and I've expressed this numerous times, there are 3,144 counties in this country. Virtually every one of them have some sort of voter administration. Well, they all do. Voter administration apparatus. In Mississippi, that falls under the circuit clerk's purview. But virtually every one of them store this information on IT systems, that would be servers, storage, networks, that are housed on site, on their premises, in the county offices. And they are not very robustly protected from a cybersecurity perspective. A high school hack could easily
but the computer
penetrate.
came with this antivirus that pops up in the corner every time saying I got to renew it. That protects me, right?
I'm telling you, a high school hacker could penetrate virtually every. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's not that they're going to get anything from that, just plain old voter data. My concern's always been...
No, the high school hacker's trying to send a message to his other hacker buddy in the same computer lab.
Using the county systems is what they're doing as a transport. It's that the bad guys... China could do it today. Shut down our elections. Just seize control of all those systems through ransomware or some other nefarious IT process, and we couldn't have elections. That's the bigger concern. Time for Fox News SuperTalk News. Treasurer David McRae is up next. Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We're pleased to welcome now Mississippi's State Treasurer, David McRae. Mr. Treasurer, thanks for coming in, sir. Thanks.
I appreciate the invitation. It's always good to see you, sir.
Yeah, man. So give us an update. What's happening at the Treasurer's office these days?
Well, we started our new fiscal year. So our last fiscal year, we made roughly about $370 million in investment. So that's great. Adds to the over $1 billion I've made the state in the last 7 years, which is fantastic. We're rocking and rolling. Revenue projection. Revenue was up.
Yeah.
Exceeded expectations, which is always great. And but things are going good. Unclaimed money is going out the door. More and more of that's going out the door, which it makes me excited. We did a study. Mississippi State actually did a study for us and said that returns over in the local economy 7 times. So we're just doing what we do over the Treasury, and we're happy to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be a little easier managing the affairs of the Treasury when you're dealing with surpluses as opposed to deficits.
Well, yes, that does make it easy. Every day I thank the good Lord that we have a surplus in this day and age, and that we're in a good market. The national market is taking a little hit with the tariffs, with the thing in Iran and everything going on, but our local economy is doing great. Our state economy is doing great. We're attracting new businesses, or we're getting national recognition for our education improvements. We're blending a great diversified portfolio, which as a stock person that you are, you want a diversified portfolio.
Sure.
We're blending a great diversified portfolio between agriculture and technology. And we're finding a way to make both of these sectors work. With agriculture being our tried and true economic engine that we've had for eons, and we will continue to do that. And we're great at it. And we are starting now moving into the new technology, which is data centers and everything else that comes with it, and the ancillary businesses and the people that it attracts. And, last census we lost population, and hopefully with these new businesses, we will keep population and grow.
Yeah, and of course, we should also recognize that our unemployment rate is relatively low as well here in the state of Mississippi. I think we have more people working than we ever have. We still got some. We need to get in the workforce, but we're doing a lot of work to improve that situation. So combination of all those factors, quality education, as you pointed out, new business investment in the state, folks are working, and at the same time, we're lowering the tax burden on Mississippi.
And that's right. The income tax is slowly shrinking away to where it'll be nothing eventually. So that's a great way to keep your money and help, I don't believe in taxes to begin with, but especially not income tax. And, income tax penalizes success. And why should we penalize success? I mean, we just shouldn't. So we're slowly getting rid of that. And but we're seeing people spend money. We're seeing corporations spend money in the state. Just right up the road, AWS, when it gets finished building, I mean, the amount of money it'll add to Madison County and eventually the state is just going to be a fantastic thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So I think Mississippi is well positioned to attract new business investment across the spectrum of industries.
Well, and we talk about all the data centers that are coming in, but we should be also concentrating on the ancillary businesses that are going to come around it and what that's going to do, and the vocational training or technical training that the community colleges will do for the data centers. Plus, on top of that, the ancillary businesses that do come around it. I think that is a very good thing. And I mean, the state's just moving in the right direction, and that's what you get when you get good conservative leadership.
I think so. I think that the state of Mississippi has an open for business sign prominently displayed around our outline, and businesses are taking note of that. We have a business-friendly regulatory environment. We have low taxes. We have great workers, an abundance of resources. We have everything that I think a prospective business would want. One example, as you said, about how the data center investments in Mississippi are driving complementary investments is the Jabil factory that announced a couple of weeks ago up in North Mississippi. It is going to be manufacturing electronic products that are used in these data centers. In fact, in 2,000 employees, I suspect most of what they make is going to be shipped to AWS in Madison County.
They're the one in Meridian that they're building. I mean, I've forgotten all the names because so many. I mean, it's
Compass in Meridian, Avio in Rankin County, XAI in DeSoto, and then AWS has Warren County and Hinds County.
And and that's great, and that's awesome. That creates new jobs, and they're going to be good-paying jobs, which will then go back into the community, which will then help the state. I mean, it's just we live in a great time, Mississippi. I mean, 20, 30 years. I would never thought this was a possibility. I mean, it's an amazing thing, and I'm glad we're there. And again, it's because we have conservative leadership. Once you put conservatives in charge, this is what happened.
So you and I, we visited at the Neshoba County Fair last, and that was in June this year. So we were talking about the public employees retirement system. I'm not sure if we mentioned this online or offline. I think it was after the interview. We're still working, of course, towards resolving its unfunded liability situation. You sit as the state treasurer on the board of the Public Employees Retirement System, but you shared with me that the fund achieved a pretty strong ROI this past year.
The ROI, the return on investment for PERS, was incredible. By the time after we talked, we had a couple days left, but at the time we had talked, it was at 17.4% return on investment. Yeah. That's incredible. By the time the end of the month, it only went down to 17.3.
That's so, still strong, though.
Insanely strong. Yeah. And one misconception, and I've had several people who are running for governor come up to me and go, well, David, isn't it the investments that are a problem? And what's funny to me is that they don't realize that is actually the only thing
that's holding. That's the bright spot.
That is the bright spot of PERS. The PERS investments are amazing. We are in the top percentile for a fund of our size.
Yeah.
And so a fund of our size, we're at the top percentile, 17.3% last year. With all the craziness that happened with the tariffs, Iran, we still made 17.3%. The fund roughly sits at close to $40 billion of cash.
Yeah.
And which is awesome. And, we have 26, roughly, depending on what number you look at, 23 to $26 billion of debt of PERS, but we have $40 billion in cash. So we're sitting fine. I mean, we're sitting okay.
Yeah, there's no urgent problem, but over the long term, we still got some adjustments we need to make to get it on the right track.
There are some adjustments. And, one thing I'm very happy about is that when I took the job of treasurer 7 years ago, no one wanted to talk about PERS. It was kind of like the forbidden taboo subject, the thing you just didn't mention. It was the boogeyman.
Yeah.
And now I'm glad the legislature wants to talk about it. We have open and honest conversations. When I go out and meet people, they want to talk about it, and we have great conversations with people. And, Tier 4, if you're, of course I always say this, the caveat is, no caveat, the thing is, if you're a current working employee from Tier 4 to below, you will get paid your retirement. The state owes you that money.
Right.
The problem with PERS is it is a burden on our credit rating. And what that means is that when we need to finally borrow money, which we haven't had to borrow money in a bit, but when we finally have to borrow money, we're going to have to buy it at a higher rate. And borrow that money at a higher rate. So we need to find a way to alleviate the burden of PERS on our credit rating. And I mean, I'm more than happy to work with the legislature whenever they want to do it and figure out a solution to that, whatever that solution is. But I mean, there is no permanent fix to that problem. And it's not a problem we just walked into one day. This is a problem that the Democrats put us in back in early 2000s.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, and we just, as Republicans, have just been dealing with it. And that's the problem.
Well, yeah, I agree that it is something that's being talked about under the dome, and for a while, it was just it's kind of like Social Security at the federal level. Nobody wants to talk about it because, for the most part, whatever action is taken to stabilize the program is going to impose some pain on somebody, that's a problem.
And that's the problem. And again, we didn't walk into this problem.
Yeah.
I mean, and this was a problem that we inherited. But you're going to have to, sometimes, like in life, you just have to choose the best worst answer. I mean, that's just kind of the best way to put it. And I'm willing and ready to work with the legislature to try to figure out a way to fix this, or a way to start the process in fixing it. The thing is, the credit agencies do notice what we do. I mean, they know it is one piece of the overall pie. One thing that actually helps us tremendously is that PERS, actually investments are so good that we have so much cash in PERS, that we're doing so well, and that the state's doing well investment-wise. But, those investments start tanking. We go into a bear market.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens after that.
17% ROI, that's got to put, PERS has got to put that program among the nation's top, I would have to believe, right?
It is in the top percentile for a size.
Easy.
For the size of the program, it is in the top percentile. And that's just, I mean, very quickly when I got into the Treasury, the former director, Ray Higgins, and I talked about changing the investment strategy. And
we got a break. Hold that thought. We come back. I want to talk about that, continue that conversation, the Trump accounts as well when we come back.
Great.
We got Treasurer David McRae in the Element Wealth studio.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
Now, on to the real part.
Dynamite!
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. We've got the Mississippi State Treasurer, David McRae, with us. So you've made some comments about Trump accounts that went into effect, and I'm with you. I agree with what you say. I think that folks have politicized it, and there's some elected officials, even in the U.S. Senate, that are recommending, even our own Benny Thompson, right, Congressman Benny Thompson, from the 2nd Congressional District of Mississippi, is advising people, don't take advantage of these Trump accounts. Don't get that $1,000 from the government that would be deposited on behalf into an account. It's restricted in what it can invest in, but on behalf of a newly born child. And then, of course, the ability to continue to invest in those accounts. The investment's not pre-tax. It's not tax-free. But the gains realized in that account are into like a standard 401k plan. But we got our own congressman telling people not to take advantage of these things.
Well, to kind of lead up into that, let me kind of explain what Trump accounts for anybody that doesn't know what those are, and that's fine because everything kind of comes at once. But Trump accounts are $1,000 that you can go to trumpaccounts.gov, sign up your child if they were born between 2025 to 2028. You can set up they'll give you $1,000. And that is run by Boney Mellon, which is the old Carnegie Mellon Bank up in New York, very established, well-financed bank, a very trustworthy bank.
Yep.
Boney Mellon will then give you an app That app, you can track your $1,000 as it goes on. If you do nothing, don't even put any money in, you can put up to $5,000 into it a year. But if you put no money into it for a newborn child, by the time they're 18, it'll be $6,000. By the time, and everything goes the way it's supposed to go. But and by the age of 55, it'll be $250,000.
Yeah.
So that's nothing. So you have Benny out there, and he's not my congressman. Michael Guest is my congressman. So he's not my congressman. But you have Benny out there running around saying that no one should take these Trump accounts. He is using this as a personal vendetta against the president because he just doesn't like the name on the accounts. If they were called anything else, he wouldn't care. If they were called XYZ accounts, he wouldn't care. And what is sad, there's two things that are very sad. His constituents in his district are caught in a vendetta between him and the president. And his constituents live in one of the poorest areas of the state, and they need this money. And it's free money. And like I said, you do nothing. You don't put anything into it. By the time that child's 18 years old, they have $6,000. But here's the funny thing about this. This is what's hilarious. And I put this on Facebook because I'm a lawyer by trade and everything like that, and I like evidence. In 2023, he co-sponsored a bill that created baby bonds, which is essentially what the Trump accounts are. They're called baby bonds. It's the same exact thing, minus one difference, one main key difference. And that key difference was that you had to be a certain income level to get it. Trump's accounts are for every income level. And so the thing is, he liked this 3 years ago, but all of a sudden you don't like it because it has a guy you have a personal vendetta against. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's almost criminal. It's irresponsible. And the parents of that district should not listen to him. And they should go to TrumpAccounts.gov, sign up for it, get it, let Boney Mellon run it for them, and then they can use it for whatever the heck they want to use it for.
So besides the $1,000 that is awarded to a child born between January 1, 2025, December 31, 2028, individuals and even businesses can also contribute. There's limits on that into those accounts to invest so that they're there when they get ready to need them when they're adults.
That's 100% correct. I mean, and it's kind of like, it's very similar to our 529 programs that we currently run at the Treasury for our college savings, except the main difference are these are kind of like baby IRA accounts, and they don't follow the traditional IRA rules like you were mentioning earlier. Yeah. But I mean, to me, there's no reason why you shouldn't do this just because it has somebody's name you might not like on there. Do it. I mean, parents always can choose what you want to do for your child, but for me, if I had my children are eligible for it because you can do it for 18 and under, and I signed up for them. I'm going to sign up for them. The rest of them, I signed up for one and then got distracted and didn't sign up for the other two. But they'll be fine. I'll sign up for them too. The thing is, the point is that it's money that can be used for almost anything. And we talk about people wanting inflation and the price of everything today. And you have a congressman who they trust telling them to do a very irresponsible thing.
Yeah, you're right. It's all, I guess, based on a political vendetta, unfortunately. That's what's at the heart of that. And it's bad advice. It's bad financial advice is what it is.
It's really bad financial advice. And one thing that this can do is that when you get the app from Boney Mellon, it can teach financial literacy because you can watch your stocks. What the app does is it has all the stocks that it's invested in or all the funds that your money's invested in. And it shows you the rise and fall of it every day. But it's going to be very conservative. Yeah. Very, very, very conservative.
Here's some restrictions.
Yeah. It's pretty much kind of how I do it at the Treasury in terms of restrictions.
Yeah.
But,
index funds, I think, right?
Very index funds, things that are going to generally make money unless something really bad happens. Yeah. But, you get to, as a financial literacy tool, teach your child how stocks work. Yeah. How all this works with their own money. I mean, it's kind of fun. My father, and I know a lot of other parents have done this in the past, would give my brother and I stocks so we learned how this works. Yeah. Or you play the stock game in high school, and watch how this works. But it's a good financial literacy tool, but everybody should do it. I mean, there's no reason not to do it. Yeah. And, if you qualify for it, you should do it. I just can't see a reason not to.
And again, from a tax consequences perspective, as long as your money is in those accounts and it's earning income and increasing in value, there are no tax liabilities during that time period. Until you draw that money out, you don't pay any tax.
That's right. And there's some little critiques. Like at 27, there's more taxes associated with it. But if you pull it out and use it for what the guidelines say you should use it for, or supposed to use it for, there's no taxes associated with that. So, I mean, it's an amazing thing, and it's disappointing to me that a leader from Mississippi, again, not my congressman, a leader from Mississippi is telling his constituents not to do it because it has somebody's name that he doesn't like on it. Yet 3 years ago, he supported the same exact thing.
It's a disservice to his constituents, honestly.
It really is. It's disappointing. It really is disappointing.
Well, I think it's a great idea. And, you're so right when you get folks at a young age to start taking an interest in that and just finance in general and markets. But hopefully it also gives them some appreciation for capitalism, for our economic system.
Yeah, I think that's a very great point. With communism kind of hitting the northeastern part of the country and other little pockets around the country, I think it is good to show children and young adults that capitalism does work.
Yeah.
I mean, it is something that this country was founded on. It promotes success. It promotes, interest in the companies that you're invested in and what they're doing. Anytime you can teach anyone any financial literacy, whether it's through stocks or checks or whatever you're doing, or how interest works, just even something basic on how interest works, you're really giving them something for a lifetime, a lifetime education.
Totally true. There's no greater symbolism of capitalism than the American stock market, and there's no greater generator of wealth than the American stock market.
You'll like this, and it may be a little less, a little more, but they say that by the time this is done, it will be $8 billion put into the stock market.
That's awesome.
That's incredible. I mean, so that's going to help the country.
Sure.
I mean, and then when people take it out, they can use it for what they need to use it for. I mean,
circulates through the economy.
Exactly. And it circles back to what I said earlier with unclaimed money. We found that just with a little bit of unclaimed money that I've given out, roughly over $300 million that I've given back out to the people of Mississippi, it's overturned 7 times in the community. Think what $8 billion will overturn.
It's unbelievable. Well, I think it's a great idea, and I wonder if there's maybe some adjustments we need to make in state law to accommodate these things. Got about a minute left.
Well, I'm always interested in anything the legislature wants to talk about, in terms of that's within my bailiwick of things to talk about. But, I'm always happy to work with the legislature on anything they want to do.
Sure. Sounds good. Thanks for coming in, Mr. Treasurer.
All right, Gerard. Appreciate it very much.
Treasurer David McRae has been our guest in the Element Wealth studio. We're taking a break, coming right back. Stay with us.
From the Seabrook.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Well, you make me wanna kick my heels up and throw my hands up and throw my head back and come on now. Don't forget to say you will. Don't forget to say yeah. Say you will. Say it right now, baby. Say you will. Come on. Say you will. Say it better, yeah. Come on now. Say that you love me. Say that you need me. Say that
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. So, Deborah and Corinth asked Rhino, did you watch the Nolan Wells funeral? You sent her a response. Well, what can you tell us about that, Rhino?
Yeah, I didn't see the full thing. I just saw clips of it, and the clips I did see were parts of Sharpton's speech. And just being perfectly honest, it felt like a lot of doublespeak. Like in one breath, you're saying we need unity, and in the next breath, you're sowing division. And like I told Debbie or Deborah on the text line, I feel sorry for Nolan Wells' parents because it seems like large swaths of social media and the grifting lawyers and clout chasers and everybody coming to town don't really care about them and their grief and this time of strife in their lives that nothing could have prepared them for. And I feel like it's doing them a disservice in many ways. I can understand the desire for a transparent investigation and for justice to be served. That is not benefited by someone like Ben Crump showing up to try to steal some time in the spotlight, or by Al Sharpton spinning his usual yarn about nonsensical crap.
I mean, does not just their mere presence sort of overshadow what this is all about? I mean, it's a time for a family to grieve and lay their child to rest here. But they kind of suck all the air out of the room, don't they? I mean, they're public figures, and they do it for calling attention to themselves, as we talk about all the time. It just seems inappropriate. I can see maybe getting involved to offer comfort and to maybe assist with the grieving process before or after, but like during the funeral, that just seems inappropriate to me because it makes it all about
like you
them.
Didn't see Tyler Perry there needing to make a speech about how he's being so altruistic in providing the funding for the funeral.
Right, exactly.
He just paid for the funeral.
Yeah, perfect example. Yeah, agree. So, but they're just hacks at the end of the day, and they're like it or not, they're politicizing something that's very sad and very personal. And that's terrible. It sucks. But what should we expect from Sharpton and Crump? That's who they are. I don't think we are confused about that. Man, I agree 100%, 10%. Al Sharpton is a harm to the black community. I want to say he is something we can't say on the air. Yeah, it doesn't seem often, though, that people, just thinking about our discussion about Benny Thompson in the prior segment when we were chatting with Treasurer David McRae, him advising people not to participate in the Trump accounts. That's because, so this is a person that would say that those of us who are capitalists, right, and that CEOs and entrepreneurs are greedy. No, that's greed. Because he's trying to get attention to himself over what is just common sense, prudent financial decision making that would actually help the people that vote for him, that have conferred to him that office since 1993. That is greed. That is an egregious example of greed. People always think of greed in terms of money. It's not always money. That is not the context totally of the concept of greed. He's a person that is, again, placing himself, but he's placing himself, here's the point, he's placing himself over his constituents in a way that does not benefit and, in fact, harms his constituents. That's even a more serious example of greed, in my view. It's terrible. It's awful. It's embarrassing, honestly. So my recommendation would be to sign up for the accounts if you have a child in your household who is eligible. And, of course, if it's a newborn, you sign up immediately. That money is deposited into that account. You heard the treasurer talk about Mellon, who is administering those accounts. They're in index funds. It's little to no risk. I mean, if your money it tanks in those funds, it really doesn't matter, because that means the whole country and the whole world has crashed financially. So it's a really good deal. I recommend to people to go sign up. Meanwhile, Micron, man, this one really blew me away. Micron, of course, those guys, they make memory chips primarily. They make silicon. Bank of America and some other big investment banks have raised their price target for the stock to $1,550. That's an 83% upside. Now, that would be a 52-week price target. It's presently trading at under $1,000 a share, $960, I think, the last I checked. It's up significantly today. But that is a $600 run in a year per share. That's incredible. Got to think there's going to be a split somewhere along the way, but we are not investment advisors here. I highly recommend you get in touch with Element Wealth for such services. Fine sponsors of the studio as part of this program. But this is just amazing. And this same analyst at Bank of America called NVIDIA in 2010. He pegged it. And anybody that invested in NVIDIA in 2010, I don't know what it was trading for now, but it was not anything that got anybody's attention. But compared to what it's trading for now, just absolutely incredible. Again, a result of American ingenuity, American creativity, American entrepreneurship, and free enterprise. That's exactly what's going on now. So that one caught my attention. You don't see too many price targets that have an 83% increase. It closed at $848 on July share on July 17th. I know it's north of $900 today, but $1,550, mind-boggling. So on the C Spire text line, someone asked, are the investments of the PERS portfolio publicly disclosed? They absolutely are. Of course, that is a publicly funded organization. The monies come from taxpayers, employer contributions, and then there's also an employee contribution. But that is a public employees retirement system, thus it is public. And yes, I pulled it up. I'm looking at the most recent investment report published on the PERS website. It's a nice document that shows the allocation of investments across U.S. equities, non-U.S. equities, global equities, private equities, real estate, private credit, fixed income, short-term cash, those various asset classes, the returns achieved per quarter last year, and in the over the prior 10 years as well. So it's a nicely presented set of data points. Also, top holdings in domestic and international equities are listed. Looks like the top 10 domestically. Their largest holding, we were just talking about it, NVIDIA. The Public Employees Retirement System has $515 million of NVIDIA stock. Microsoft's next at $470, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, Broadcom, Tesla. All, of course, technology issues. All have had incredibly nice runs over the last couple of years. So I would say that the investment managers have done a good job managing PERS's $40 billion portfolio, achieving a 16% rate of return last year and a north of 17% rate for fiscal year 26. You just heard the treasurer talking about that. So over the last 10 years, a 9%, which is still strong and ranks the program in the top 4 or 5 in the country, I believe. But 17% this year, that's mind-boggling. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Polyupa, Mississippi.
You know what that means.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
We'll do it live.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. This on the C Spire text line from earlier today. We were talking about the latest in the lettuce gate. Maybe we ought to call it diarrhea gate. It seems to be a continuing controversy. These folks at Taylor Farms said, wasn't us. They didn't really handle the testing correctly. False positive. The FDA, however, still says, well, not so fast, Taylor Farms. So I don't know what the heck the truth is there. But it's certainly having a ripple effect throughout the fast food industry, in particular Taco Bell, who reports their foot traffic is down. I think folks will forget about that pretty quickly, and it will recover. But I understand. And then there's also
the vast majority of people partaking in fourth meal don't pay attention to the news.
That's a good point. But on the C Spire text line, I was also talking about how the keyboardist of my favorite band, Journey, Jonathan Cain, has had some harsh criticism for rocker Bruce Springsteen, who has a tendency to politicize every concert. He's like 75, 76, and he always takes 10 or 15 minutes at every concert to rail on President Trump with his audience there. And Jonathan Cain, the keyboardist of Journey, said, I used to like you. You used to be a good guy. You hate this country so much. Why don't you consider leaving it? I'm paraphrasing it a bit, but he gave Springsteen the business. On the C Spire text line, picked a horrible time to become a Caesar salad rap guy. Springsteen isn't starting to lose it. That happened years ago. He's way lost. I think it's just iceberg lettuce, isn't it? So
you should be safe if you got a traditional Caesar salad with the romaine lettuce.
Golly, that's crazy. Deborah in Carn says, with respect to the Nolan Wells funeral, I agree. Trump turned it into a 1960s demonstration. It was awful. Nolan's mom and dad deserve some comfort and closure, and sadly, I don't think they got it. I hear you, Deborah. I agree. I think it's disgusting that they come in, again, to call attention to themselves for personal edification. On the C Spire text line, we're talking about the top holdings of the Public Employees Retirement System of Mississippi from an equity perspective. Turns out that most of their money is presently allocated to the technology industry, the chip industry, the hyperscalers, the building out the various data centers, because those companies have had strong runs in their stocks, and thus the fund produced a 17.3% return on investment for fiscal year 2026. Bravo. On the C Spire text line, too bad NVIDIA manufactures in Taiwan. All of the operational administration, design, engineering aspects of the company are done at their California-based headquarters. That includes research and development, system architecture, etc. But it is true that Taiwan Semiconductor does manufacture a good bit of their chips in Taiwan. That's just an industry that Taiwan has had kind of a grip on for a very long time. They just didn't start with NVIDIA. Almost all DRAM memory, as I recall, back in the old days, all came from the Pacific Rim, and in particular in Taiwan. Now, the good news is they are investing a ton of money is Taiwan Semiconductor here in the United States. I think they announced, Rhino, not too long ago, a $500 million investment, maybe even more than that.
And you also got to remember all of the industry involved in supplying the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Including, spruce pine mining up in, North Carolina, where it's something like 85 to 90% of all of the high purity quartz used in semiconductor manufacturing comes out of their mines.
Yeah, I've seen an interview with those guys. That's a great company, man, a great American company. They are thriving, as you can imagine. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a good point. The good news is, though, you are seeing some reshoring of silicon manufacturing in this country. And this is a bit ironic, is it not? We talked yesterday about, over the weekend, New York Governor Kathy Hochul signing an EO placing a moratorium on data center construction in her state, I think for at least a year, if I'm not mistaken. But guess who has a gigantic plant under construction in the Empire State of New York? A plant that is going to build chips that go in data centers. That would be Micron, company I was just talking about, that now has a $1,550 price target placed on it by Bank of America and some other investment banks. Get this. Micron is building a $100 billion semiconductor mega complex in Clay, New York. That's just north of Syracuse. I can't even comprehend a $100 billion factory, 9,000 direct jobs under construction right now. Coming right back after Fox News and SuperTalk News.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays, hour 3 of the program, live from the Element Wealth studio. So that, of course, would be the tune Only the Young. And guess who was one of the co-authors of that song? None other than Jonathan Cain, the keyboardist who we were talking about, collaborated with Steve Perry on lead vocals and Neil Sean on lead guitar. On the C Spire text line concerning my sharing of the story of Jonathan Cain being critical of Bruce Springsteen, says we should be able to criticize the government without half the country telling you that if you don't like it, you should leave. Well, think about what you said there, honestly. First, I agree with you. We do have the right in this country. It's one of the things that makes this country unique. Under the First Amendment, you have the right to be critical of your government. That is protected speech. But you know what? If I suggest that you ought to leave if you don't like it, so is that. That's protected speech. So I think the good news here is that we both can express our opinion without consequences. And that's what Springsteen's doing. That's what Cain is doing. I don't disagree that Springsteen has the right to stand up on the stage and make a fool of himself and criticize his country and the president. Yeah, we have that right. And I think most of us who at least have clear-thinking brains, Rhino would say, and I would fight to protect your right. I would, to be critical of me or our country, express your opinions, but I also believe I have the right to dissent, to disagree, and to criticize. And that's all that's happening here. So, you know, I would invite you to consider, he said touche, I appreciate that. So just consider that we all, I think, are respectful of, we're grateful of, we certainly should be, that First Amendment. There's a reason why it's first. Because if you did that from whence our founders came, off with your head, right? If you criticize the crown, said anything that was in some way condemning of the monarchy, that's why they left. That's one of the main reasons that they left. And they came over here and said, no, we're not going to run this place like that. Even at such a young age, they figured out that's got to be the top one. Nothing else is possible. In a free society, it's got to be underpinned with that right. So,
people seem to forget that there was a period of time where we lived under the Constitution without the Bill of Rights.
That's true.
These were conversations being had and rights being enumerated that came from real-world discussions and came from actual Americans living under the Constitution realizing, hey, the Constitution allows us to make changes. It allows us to enumerate other things that aren't in it. We need to lay out a list of some more because the Constitution's not quite strong enough.
That's a great point. I didn't think about that, but I think they met for, a couple of years? The Constitutional Convention, I think we finally got the document 1789, I believe is the year, that it went into effect, and then
1787.
Well, 87, I thought,
when it was signed.
Is when it was signed. Okay. But to become effective, I could be wrong on my date here. I knew 87 is when it was signed, 89 when
it was ratified in June the next year.
Okay.
1783.
Okay.
Or 88, excuse me.
88, yeah. So, and then the Bill of Rights came, 2 years later? A couple years later? Early 90s? 1790s, I should say. 1791 is the number that's in my head. I know you're looking that up. But you're right. We did have a period of time. But that's the beauty of the system that they devised.
Yeah, the Constitution went into effect in the spring of 1789.
Okay.
And by September of 1789, the United States Bill of Rights had been written with the first 10 amendments, and it was ratified in December of 91.
Okay. So a couple of years there, you're right. We had a period where we lived under a Constitution sans the Bill of Rights.
Because before the Bill of Rights, you had individual states coming up with their own list of enumerated rights, and it was going to get very messy very quickly.
Okay. Made sense.
Like I think Virginia had a Declaration of Rights. There were rights enumerated in the Northwest Ordinance. And then you still had some legal scholars pointing to rights enumerated by either the Magna Carta or the English Bill of Rights that were not enumerated in the Constitution that they felt were necessary.
Got it. Still, though, you still have to marvel at it, the brilliance, honestly. And the fact that it has stood the test of time. Now, we know there's some people in this country that would like to dispense with the Constitution. It certainly major key provisions that it lays out. We're seeing that from the Democrat Socialists of America who want to eliminate the Senate and the Supreme Court, which I'm pretty sure was all part of the Constitution. It constituted our government and its system and the various functions of government. And the branches of government, of course, prominently discussed and prescribed in the document. And they say, no, we just want this one body that would go hire a chief executive instead of electing a president and appoint a judiciary, right? No Senate, though. We don't have time for a Senate. Literally, that is in their platform. And they want to eliminate, you've seen this, the Department of War. Like the country doesn't need a defense department. It doesn't need to defend itself. from any sort of adversaries, both foreign and domestic. So it's nuts what they think.
You mean like the far left nut job that tried to blow up the federal building in New York, but instead poured a bucket of gas out and lit it on fire?
Gosh, dog. Can you believe that? Yes, that would be such an example that we're talking about here. Really totally incredible. So, but totally agree with the texter that you're right. We should be able to criticize our government without consequences from government, okay? If others are critical of your criticism, they're just exercising their rights as well. And I know this person said touche, and I think they're saying, I get it. I agree with that. But what we don't want is what we're seeing in England, for example. That if you say
well, we have been seeing in England. They arrested Count Dankula for making a funny video about his dog doing a Hitler salute in 2016.
Oh, my gosh.
There's nothing new. They've been doing it for a decade now.
And they wonder why that country is in shambles. That plus the crazy open borders that...
when you bring in a bunch of barbarians that don't think like you do, don't act like you do, don't govern like you do, don't live like you do, and you arrest people for the thought crime of being against those invaders coming into their country, then yeah, you got a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, totally agree. On the C Spire text line, I buy a ticket to a concert with the expectation of being entertained without being held captive to the artist's personal political opinions. Bruce obviously overestimates his personal political worth. I completely agree. I would say that is the way I feel about investing in a ticket for any entertainment event, such as sports, which is why I thought it was ridiculous, certainly in 2020 when all this started to take hold, that you couldn't see a sporting event, certainly at the professional level, that didn't have tropes and slogans and all rooted in some political stance all over the place, in the end zones, on the helmets, on the jerseys. It was ridiculous. Still going on a little bit. It's calmed down somewhat though since then. I agree though. It's not what you go to a concert for. It's not what I go to a football game, baseball, basketball game for as well. I thought
the
that
loser liberals cannot separate their asinine ideology from their personality. It's one and the same.
Yep, I totally agree. On the C Spire text line, you should listen to the Theo Von and Aaron Brockovich podcast. Makes you think a little bit. It's quite informative on data centers. I have. They're whack jobs. They're nutcases. And 99.9%.
I would put Theo Von and informative in the same breath.
They mire in lies. It's just simple as that. All for personal political attention and gain. That's all they care about. No doubt.
I would argue that's what Aaron Brockovich cares about.
Yeah, she does.
Theo Von. Not really very forward thinking.
Yeah, would totally agree. We are coming right back in the Element Wealth studio. Stay with us.
Give my love and on the run. I'm a picker, I'm a grinner, I'm a lover, and I'm a sinner. I play my music in the sun. I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker.
Check it out. Let's do this.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's get on with it.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
It's been a mystery. We still try to see why something good can hurt so bad. Caught on a one-way street, the taste of bittersweet. Love will survive somehow, some way. One love feeds the fire.
There you go. Who's crying now? Written getting by. We've been talking about him. Jonathan Cain and Steve Perry, released in 1981, first as a single, and then became part of the Escape Tour, and I believe was ultimately published on the Frontiers album. No, on the Escape album. Yep, that's right. Part of that tour. Well, we're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. More failure from the Not My Problem people. Governor Sherrill of New Jersey just reported that 6,000 non-citizens were registered to vote in the Garden State of New Jersey by, quote, a software error. Oh, my gosh. This is that situation where, you show up for some sort of transaction involving your vehicle in New Jersey. That would be the Vehicle Commission, and they automatically register you to vote, just as a matter of convenience. But apparently between 23 and 24, there was some problems, as 6,600 non-citizens. That's the problem, though. Why are they getting driver's licenses to start with? And, of course, as part of this automatic integrated process, they're getting registered to vote. That's outrageous, in my view. So, man. Yeah, Tim from Tupelo says, fun fact, Randy Jackson played bass on the 1985 Journey Tour. Saw them in the old Mid-South Coliseum. Absolutely, from Baton Rouge. From Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as I recall, is the home of Randy Jackson. He sure did. He played on the 1986 album Raised on Radio, produced by the band Journey. So appreciate that, though. You saw him at the Mid-South Coliseum. I bet that was awesome.
He also played with Stryper.
Yeah, okay. That was back during the period where, as my wife likes to describe it, we looked like triangles. When you had the hair cut like a triangle and the clothes that were tailored like a triangle. So, yeah.
Well, Stryper is infamous for being one of the earliest rock metal Christian bands.
Okay. Was I right, though? Wasn't he from Baton Rouge? Did you see that? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. So, Claude, that, of course, Anthropic's AI engine, I don't know if you saw this, Rhino, it just disproved an 87-year-old math problem. This was announced by, I'm going to do my best to say the name right, Levent Alperjay. That is a Turkish mathematician, works at Anthropic, and he made the announcement on his Twitter. Hello there. This problem, by the way, is known as the Jacobian conjecture. Says it's false, thanks to my close friend Akil for asking about it, and my other close friend Fable. That, of course, the name of Anthropic's latest AI engine, said that Fable worked during the World Cup final, the AI engine, to disprove. And I'm looking at this algebra problem. That looks like a foreign language, does it not? It's three lines of a bunch of numbers, and of course the up. So I guess it'd be kind of like a rooftop design that indicates an exponent, is the way that's written, and a bunch of X, Y's and parentheses, additions and subtractions and divisions and factoring, all in this problem. And basically says, yeah, Claude figured it out. They've been trying to figure it out for 87 years. What do you see there? Oh,
I'm just going to read the math-ese breakdown of the Jacobian conjecture. And if you understand it, good for you. You paid more attention in math class, and it stayed with you for far longer. Because the Jacobian conjecture states that if a polynomial function from an n-dimensional space to itself has a Jacobian determinant, which is a non-zero constant, then the function has a polynomial inverse.
That's awesome. Well, according to Mr. Alperget, Claude has disproved that theory. So,
well, that's the thing. It was never a theory. It was always a conjecture.
Okay,
and
conjecture.
The more computing power has gotten stronger, the more evidence has come out against the conjecture. I want to say as far back as like the 1940s, they were saying, I don't know that this is always true.
So let me pose this question. After this report showing that Fable, that is the name of Anthropic's latest AI large language model. So if it figured out this problem and disproved this conjecture after 87 years and did it during the World Cup, according to Mr. Alperget, is there any doubt that China in their AI aspirations is working on systems that could penetrate our cybersecurity protection systems? There's not to me. That's what they're doing. And if we don't stay a step ahead, we're at risk of falling to China as a country. I don't know what's so hard to figure out about that, because encryption schemes, as you know, Rhino, are just a bunch of math. They're a bunch of algebra and algorithms in math that are not nearly as complex as this Jacobian conjecture. And so it's just a matter of time that they attain that capability if we fail to stay a step ahead of them in AI and quantum computing. But this literally was just released on Sunday during the World Cup, or maybe right after the World Cup, a few hours after the World Cup. And he published this on his Twitter account. And I'm looking at the conjecture as it is with, again, all these numbers in parentheses and variables and exponents and everything else. Just incredible. But just goes to show you the power of this technology. And when you start combining AI with quantum computing, I'm telling you, the sky's the limit. And it's exciting. I think we're going to see some significant problems that have confounded humans for a long time be resolved in the next few years. And of course, there are some that it'll take longer than that. But this is exciting technology in my view. Something also that is more closer to home is our catfish industry is hit a crisis point. And that's not just in Mississippi, but of course in Arkansas, Alabama as well. Just the overall catfish industry is really struggling. And they're looking for some assistance in that respect. I'm not sure what our Department of Agriculture is doing, if anything, to address this issue. Haven't seen or heard anything. But the crux of the issue, according to one farmer interviewed, is that there are just too many dollars are going into production and not enough coming out after the harvest. That's a pretty straightforward explanation of in classic definition of a business that is facing failure. Can only withstand losses for so long. Said the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic threw the catfish industry into a tailspin that only got worse over the years. Some years ago, I bought 50-pound bags of soybean meal for $10 each, less if I get a few dozen at a time. I'm lucky to bring that bag home for less than $30 today. 3x. Wow. Soybean meal that makes up about a third of the fish's diet is far from the only element. He says everything is more expensive now for the farm. It's the food, the electricity, the gas, the maintenance, the transportation. Everything has gone up except the money coming in to help us run the place. Serious concern that we certainly all understand about our catfish industry, which is a critical one to our state. Coming right back in the Element Well studio.
From theSeabrook.com.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Welcome to our shop.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Okay, now you have a good one.
Just a little bit more about this problem in the catfish industry, which is a big industry, as you know, in the state of Mississippi. If I'm not mistaken, Rhino, the number of acres underwater in Mississippi used for farming of catfish more than any other state. Last I checked. Now, it's been a few years when I remember researching that. But I mean, this is kind of where the catfish industry was birthed, if you will. I mean, the institutionalization, you know what I'm saying, of farm-raised catfish really started here. And it's vertically integrated in our state with the farmers and the processors being close by. They harvest the fish, bring them to the processors. And I'm not sure if it's still the case, but in many cases, the processors were actually co-ops. They were owned by the farmers to produce the finished product from the actual raw fish that they hatched and grew and raised on the farms.
Yeah, looking at acreage of water used for catfish farms, you've got Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas are 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Mississippi makes up 57% by poundage.
Okay.
As far as acreage, Mississippi has almost 30,000 acres. Alabama has 16,000 acres, and I'm looking for where Arkansas lands on.
So almost twice what Alabama has, and they're in second. So we're a distant first, is the point there.
Arkansas just says thousands of acres.
Okay. So part of what sustained these farms through market swings and inflation has been support from the federal governments. Traditional farms that grow crops such as soybeans and corn, they get all kinds of money from subsidies, but the catfish farmers don't have access to the same sort of federal support. They benefit from surplus purchases, is what the farmers say. So this is a problem in our state that I know it's not just catfish farmers, as you know. We've got other agricultural industries that are struggling as well in our state. About the only one that seems to be thriving is cattle. We've got elevated price of beef, which is due to a lot of factors. And, of course, these are globally, at least nationally traded commodities. Farmers don't have any control over the price that they fetch for their production. They're at the mercy of the markets. But I'll say it again, these guys are just too good. They, to a great extent, produce more than we can consume because of the efficiencies that they've achieved through the years in growing their respective products and goods. Let's see what we have on the C Spire text line. Jason Starkville says, isn't the Cinco mega site that's up in the Golden Triangle area going on top where there were close to 20 ponds? I'm not sure. Were there some catfish farms in that area? I don't recall that being the case. I remember when we did the remote up there, was it last year when there was an announcement about that industrial site? Rode by it. I don't remember seeing any ponds, but not sure. Worries about Iran, hurricane maybe in the Gulf, heat wave, liberals everywhere. No worries, as it's tunes that matter, says Gary in the Berg. Good bumper music makes it all better. He wants Fleetwood Mac, go your own way there, Rhino. And then we have someone else that says, more blind melon, please. James in Hattiesburg says, I'm utilizing AI in my construction business. When we have the State Board of Contractors meeting in 2 weeks ago, we had a class on it, and it really opened my eyes as to what AI can do. But I'm also seeing people complain about it, namely graphic designers. My opinion is that they can either learn to use it as a tool or they will get left behind. Not being rude, but that's just the progression of society getting invented, and you either get on board or you get left. 100%. Well said, James. Rhino, I remember when the graphics designers were worried about the introduction of just rudimentary tools that worked on Macintoshes and Apple computers. But the one I remember, Rhino, that you could get for a PC back in the Windows 3.1 days in the early 90s was called PageMaker. Oh, my gosh, you could do your own newsletter internally. You didn't have to pay a outside firm for that purpose. And we used to hold classes in my company on using PageMaker. I don't even think that product's around anymore, but it was one of the early, we called it back then, Rhino, desktop publishing is what it was called. And that was a big deal. We are blessed, by the way, folks, with, I got to give a shout out to the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network that originated at the Mississippi Gulf Coast. That is under the direction of Dr. Colin Napier from Mississippi Gulf Coast. And he recently just got a promotion in that regard, like over the weekend. I don't want to misstate it, and you can't see that right. Yeah, he's now the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer. So this is cool. He's brilliant. He serves with me on the AI task force as well. And so I think this is a well-deserved appointment as the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer of the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network. And by the way, if you folks are interested, go to their website. They've got all kinds of free training, free tools. He presents, they conduct seminars and training classes all throughout the state to a cross-section of industries with use cases. He's doing a great job, and Mississippi's leading here to a great extent. I'm proud of our efforts there. KC says graphic designers complain about it the same way lawyers complain about legal Zoom, etc. Absolutely, KC, great point. And look, accountants complain about tax processing software products as well, right? The fact is you need fewer accountants. But if you think about what those tools do, they're augmentative in nature, not replacement in nature. So you don't want to pay graphic designers, for example, for dealing with the drudgery of that sort of stuff, but rather you want their creativity and their skills there. They're still, generally speaking, better at that than just the person on the street trying to create something using AI.
And that's what I was going to bring up is I know a graphic designer, talked to him a lot in group chat, and he was talking about using AI and training AI on his style.
Okay, there you go.
And then allowing the AI to generate kind of the busy work of a project. Like one example he was doing where he had a couple humanoid figures he had to make in the forefront of a flyer or poster or whatever, and then he needed a big crowd going back into the horizon. Well, he wanted all the people in the crowd to be in his style, but that would take hours upon hours to individually draw each individual person. So he made up like a dozen of them, trained the AI on that dozen, and that AI then generated that part of the graphic he was working on, basic models, and he could go in and tweak them and give them their own personality and put his own flair on it. But it took hours of busy work out of his time working on that particular piece.
That's absolutely correct. And Casey says, my daughter just got a graphic design degree from Mississippi State. they do make your work more efficient. Well, that's the whole idea. And so I think we already are seeing it. You're seeing it in profits produced by corporations. I think we're on the cusp of a major productivity boom in this country. And wealth is only created when productivity increases. When there's more output from human effort, that's how wealth is generated. It's the only way wealth is generated. And AI is playing a key role in that. And yeah, there's still some questions because we're in the embryonic phase of this. So anybody that's already going out there and predicting some sort of catastrophic crash of that industry is clueless. Doesn't know what they're talking about. When I was trying to get capital, I got to share a personal story to launch my company in 1985, which back then was going to be in the business of selling personal computers and software and peripherals solutions to customers. I think I told you, I had a banker that said, well, I think people have all the computers they're ever going to need in 1985. That's kind of what this feels like when we have people out there saying, oh, I just think this is a bubble that's going to crash. Will there be successes and failures and ebbs and flows and volatility? Of course, that's always the case with something so innovative, so sweeping. But overall, this is here to stay, and it's going to get bigger and better. Coming right back, final segment on Middays.
Hi, this is...
Properly set all controls before recording.
All systems go.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Final segment today. Don't forget, SEC Media Days is the unofficial start to the college football season. SportsTalk Mississippi is in Tampa again today, where they'll have one-on-one discussions with SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and, of course, many others. It's the biggest event of the offseason, SEC Media Days, brought to you in part by Pearl River Resort, Cannon Motors, Mississippi Farm Bureau, and, of course, Trustmark Bank. So we were just talking about the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network. If you're not familiar with that organization, you can go to their website it's at mainms.org. Maine, the word Maine, MS, that's one word, .org. Easy to find. Just
Maine like street, not like the state.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. MAINMS.org. You can go out there and do a quick search, Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network. Boom, it'll take you right there. But again, I just got to give kudos to my friend Dr. Colin Napier, that is now the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer of the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network. I got to tell you guys, we're way ahead of if not every state, most of the states in this country in this regard. And this is free training that's being provided by Maine. And Dr. Napier is a very much in-demand speaker and presenter, does a great job, not only in Mississippi, but on a national scale as well. And I think as a result, we've got lots of companies and organizations in Mississippi that are leveraging this technology. And we had someone on C Spire text line earlier, you have James in Hattiesburg talking about how he's using it in his construction business. I mean, there are a million use cases, which is good stuff. And we're just in the embryonic phase, as I've said, and to a great extent, just using generative AI, some agentic AI. We haven't even gotten to general AI yet. We haven't ascended the AI hierarchy. It's coming, though. There's no doubt about it. This is exciting. But using it to decode the Jacobian and disprove the conjecture. You were explaining to me, explain to the folks on the air, kind of what that conjecture is all about and what it attempted to explain with math.
Well, in simplest terms, the Jacobian conjecture, we'll break it down into colors because that's about the simplest I can go.
Yeah.
If you have red plus blue, you wind up with purple. We're talking about modeling clay, Play-Doh, paints, pigments, crayons, whatever. Red plus blue equals purple. In math, you have a lot of problems that are kind of simple when you're going forward like that. Red plus blue is purple. 2 plus 3 equals 5. That kind of stuff. In math, you can't always go in reverse, though, especially the more complex this formula gets, the equation gets. So the Jacobian conjecture, if it had been proven true, would become the Jacobian theory, and that would have proven that, well, you've got red plus blue equals purple. Now you can deconstruct purple into red and blue. By disproving the conjecture, it's showing that sometimes when you try to disassemble purple, you're going to wind up with red with some purple in it and blue with some purple in it. So mathematically, you can't always go backwards when you can go forwards.
So in the software world, as you know, that would be referred to as reverse engineering. And there are tools and there are bad actors that actually used to make a living in the old days taking code and reverse engineering it so that they could create the original source code from the object code, the actual program machine data that is processed by the computer. And so what this says, though, this conjecture is, you can't always count on reverse engineering that into the nice little parsed buckets that you want to. That's fascinating, honestly, to me. And so, but the fact that mathematicians have been trying to figure this out or disprove it, I guess, or maybe prove it, right, for decades, and this AI tool does it during the World Cup Sunday. That's just pretty incredible. And so that just goes to show you, though, how productivity can be achieved. Now, I'm sure there's something valuable out of that you and I maybe don't know about and can't comprehend. But if you think about when you're faced with such a problem that would take decades for humans to solve, and all you're trying to do is get to the answer so you can move to what you're ultimately trying to produce, you save time. You cut through all that drudgery, and you get what the data, the answer, the solution you're looking for, so you can produce something of value.
Instead of having to have conference after conference every year of mathematicians coming together and putting their heads together to try to solve it, and all those cycles being spent, you basically put all that know-how into a computer, let it jumble it up, and figure it out.
I love it. We are out of here today. Back with you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe and God bless everyone.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.